Hi, so here's the video for a sketch right through to Photoshop, and I've set up a grid that's based on the rule of thirds. This is for my composition really, so I want the right third to be the side of the car and the left two thirds to be the front of the car. So I've left that as a base layer, and then I just started to sketch. So just gonna get the sketching as normal. And sketched in Sketchbook Pro, and I'm just kind of I did a sketch on a piece of paper, which kind of tried to capture it again on the computer. And what I got in my head was kind of like a layered bodywork sort of front end, where the eyebrows of the headlights kind of overlap the front of the bonnet. And the sketch I did originally was a Mercedes, so I'll just carry on with that sort of thing. Okay, so I'm kind of happy with the sketch, sort of. Not 100% happy with it, but we'll go with it for now for the base of this tutorial. So once I'm happy with it, I'm going to start the process of rendering. And I'm just going to block in some grey, and then I'm going to make the background and the foreground with some white spots to give kind of a studio sort of look and feel. And then I'm just using some blacks, and then I'm just going to block in all the air vents. And then I'm just going to block in the main colour of the car, base layer of paint. Not being too accurate with it, just it's basically just blocking it all in, starting to. And the more you work into them, then the more kind of the more I work into it, the more precise I'll get with it. But for now, in Sketchbook, still, just going to start blocking in some shadows and some tones. And what I've done with this is every surface facing upwards I've made in shadow, and I'm rendering it as if it's uplit from the floor. So surfaces facing down are going to be light, and then no, just again, same thing with the windscreen, just blocking it all in with black. And then using the same process I always use, soft and harsh eraser. Just doing the shadow cast by the wing mirror. And then just trying to put a highlight on the bonnet, and as the bonnet's facing upwards, it's all going to be dark. So just going to build that up a series of layers. So just trying to define the front wings, which is going to be the focus point of the rendering. This rendering was about 3 hours long, so to give you an idea of how long it takes. yeah, just trying to build up some contrast as well. Still plugging away with these shadows and trying to get a nice grayscale, basically. So in this dark area here is pretty much where my indicator some headlights will be laid at the top of the bonnet. And the more I've kind of started to put in the forms, and I wasn't actually keen on the actual sketch. If this was for a project I was working on or personal work, I would have stopped it by now and would have done something else, because I'm not quite happy with the forms and proportions on the front of the car. But for the basis of this tutorial, I thought I'd just carry on with it. So now doing the light spots on the surfaces, so any surface facing down, I just started to put some really harsh white. I'm just trying to build up this scallop on the side of the car going into the wheel arch, which is kind of a new feature on the Mercedes for their product line. I'm just trying to work out what the light would be doing as it blends into that wheel arch, and it's same as usual, just building up a series of layers. It's kind of indecisive about whether to do something really harsh or something really thin. It's torn in two minds really, but yeah. So just for contrast reasons, just putting some white in the A pillar, although it's not facing down, but just the contrast between the windscreen and the side DLO. So now just putting a shadow underneath the car on the ground. Now I'm just trying to sort out the ellipses for the actual wheels and the wheel arches themselves. And I just duplicated those strokes for the wheels. The more I work into it, I'm not happy with how wide the car is and the front left of the car. But like I said, I'm just going to carry on with it for the basis of this tutorial. But something just doesn't quite feel right. But yeah, so I'm putting some ground shadows in. Playing around with the contrast again, still just kind of forever not making my mind up on what to do. This is all done with a Wacom Intuos L, Intros Pro L, I should say, which is just a bit bigger than an A4 piece of paper workspace area. Um, just adding the distance between the A pillar and the actual glass, so it looks like the glass is set within the actual A pillar, and then obviously the height difference from the bonnet above the glass. And then what I'm doing here is using white, and then I'm just giving the impression that you can see through the glass, and then by indicating the glass window on the other side, it also hints that there's a headrest in the way. It's just something that's really simple and quite effective. And then just blocking in the highlight across the windscreen. So just fired up Photoshop, just put it into Photoshop, and then I've saved it out as a PSD from Sketchbook and then opened it in Photoshop. And then I'm just using the pen tool. My pen tool settings are set to a shape layer, so I can move the points, but I can always readjust that, and it's just set to fill. So if you look at the top left hand corner of the screen, it says fill or stroke. Currently I've got no stroke, but I've got fill black, so I'm just filling it out black, and I'm just going to tidy this up a bit, make it a bit neater and fit it to what I want it to be. And using the selection tools, which is the black and white arrows, you can always come back and tweak these and move these around because they're a shape layer, which is vector based. So here, just change that from a fill to a stroke, and I've done a white stroke, and this is basically just going to be the edge of the material now, using a layer mask on these vector layers, and then just remove the part that I don't want to show using a layer mask. I use these all the time because it reduces the size of the file, and it also makes it quicker and easier. So rather than having to path things out and stroke it in the path box, and then once it's stroked, you can't do anything with it. But using shape layers, you can always go back and tweak and move things, and it's just an easier workflow. So again, with every time I remove part of these strokes, it's actually using a layer mask, as you can see in the layers at the top right. Just using a black paint on a white layer mask. And as you can see, although it's stroked, you can just manipulate it, move it. And so, yeah, same process, just going around every single line, every end to a body panel, and just putting in all those highlights. So now I'm just going to put this, it's currently on a stroke, I'm going to set it to a fill, so the top, if you look at the top left layer. So again, I use a pen tool, set the pen tool on the top left to a shape layer rather than a path, and then put them into a fill. And then using a layer mask, just erase those a bit. And the good thing about a layer mask, it doesn't actually delete any of the layer, it just hides it. So you can always, on those layer masks that you can see next attached to those files, those layers, you can just use white to reveal or black to hide. So if you ever want to reveal a bit more or hide a bit more, you just literally just paint on. The more I work into it, the more I think it's too fussy and there's too much going on. Um, so it's not my greatest piece of work, but so what I've done there, I've just done a grey and then added noise to the grey, and then I've just done a colour, and then using the hue saturation, which is Command U or Control U, and just change the colour. So you can see the noise on the layer below the purple layer. Gives it kind of a fleck sort of look in the paint. And I've done this next shape layer as I'm doing right now as a yellow with a layer style which has got an outer glow, just to give the impression of it's a light. And I'm just playing with the colour of the actual light and a slightly different colour for the actual outer glow. And then same thing, outer glow. And that's the benefit of using a shape layer. Just copied and pasted it, flipped it horizontally, and then just tweaked it to suit. Then yeah, just kind of some kind of fog lamp in there sort of thing. Not really sure, but you get the idea. Something as easy as that. And just going to path in the bottom, tidy up that bottom area. Cause it just looks a bit rubbish. So I kind of gave up on that idea, and I just thought I'd just paint in some black. So just tidying up the bottom front edge of that car, the splitter. And making it grounded to the floor sort of thing, so it doesn't look like it's just hovering in space. And now I'm just thinking about the wheel arch and how it's cut back from the actual tyre wall. So just another shape layer, just black, and then getting that wheel arch to come in quite a bit, revealing more of the tyre, and then doing another stroke, and this time just a white stroke using the ellipse tool. But again, the ellipse tool on the left panel is set to a shape layer. And I've done quite a broad stroke on this one, white, but then I've changed the opacity right down and then masked off quite a bit of it. Now this is a good thing, using the text layer, I can create text and hover over the text, hover over the ellipse, and it allows you to write text over a circle or a path or anything. So in this case I want to do some text along the actual tile wall, and then you can change the font size as you normally would, and you can just drag so now I can just drag that point, wrong point, drag that cursor down to where you want it to be positioned when you're on the add selection arrow, and you can move start and end. So then using the character and control, I'm going to stretch the font, so I'm going to make it quite a bit wider, and maybe even reduce the height. So it's always good if you want to do, like, say if you wanted to write Pirelli or Goodyear or something like that, or I'm trying to find a photo or whatever, you could just type the font out, which is always handy. I'm just going to change the height as well because it's really high, so I'm just going to knock that down a bit. Doesn't seem to be working. So I'm just playing with the settings at the minute to try and find the right sort of size and stretch of the font. So just to recap on that, you get a shape layer or path, and then you get your text layer, hover over the path, and you'll see a little wavy icon when you're hovering over the path, and then just by clicking on that, it will allow you to then write text on a path or a shape. So you could do your text and warp it and distort it, but this is a much nicer result. And you can always select the path and then reposition and scale the path, and the text will move with it. So I'm just trying to tweak the white highlight on the tyre. And once you're happy with it, you're good to go. And I'm just going to put a bevel and a drop shadow on the actual tyre, the text. And by doing that, it makes it look like it's engraved or embossed, depending on what you put your settings to. And just doing a hot spot on the tyre edge. And then leaving quite a bit of black space above the white hot spot, just to show that there's a shadow cast by the wheel arch. And then just going to do the flat spot to the side of the wheel arch as well. So just using a shape and then just setting it to a grey, I think, and then setting it to multiply. And it will pick up whatever the colour is below or above. And then just copy and pasting the whole group of the wheel, and then just skewing that to suit. So rather than doing the whole thing twice, you just do the one thing and then just copy and paste it. Again, just kind of making that wheel arch cut in a bit. And then just working onto some spokes. I'm just going to keep this real quick and real loose and suggestive. So just a highlight, and then just brush that on and brush it off. And then using like quite a dark grey, just to show there's a it's not all just black. And then a white spot for some highlight. I'll just turn that down, just give an indication that there's a rim there, and there's a material thickness that it spokes. Just remove that purple layer, just turn that purple layer off, because I didn't really feel like that purple was doing anything. So just doing another path, a shape layer, but it's a stroke, and I'm just going to make that black, and then a white copy of that, basically copy and pasted it with a white one, and it gives you the impression as a part line. And I just did the same for the back of the door. So just a white and black line for part lines, and then just doing the wing mirror. And just playing around with another colour, seeing if that works any better. Not 100% sold on the colour, but the good thing about doing all the car in a grey scale is you can just overlay a colour or multiply a colour, and then it gives you the whole bodywork in one layer. But it's quite easy to change. If I was to render the whole thing in black and red and various other colours, you'd do all the layers in certain set of colours, but then it makes it more difficult to change. So I find just doing everything in grey and then just overlaying a colour is just a quick and easy way of doing it. And just adding some kind of highlight to the underside of the tyre. Putting a signature on it. And I'm in an R-in, I think that's fine. So now I'm just doing an iris blur layer under the blur gallery and adding some bokeh effect to the blur. And that's it.